All right, here's a zoom in on the rider there. You can see that he's just been blocked in very, very loosely. Now, I put my alignment back up, and I'm just going to come in with my pack horse, and again I'm just going to quickly just suggest that. I'm not even going to bother spending a lot of time drawing on that. I just want to make sure I got it there. I'm good to go. Again, we're just dealing with shape. Because they're heading away from me, I have precious little, if any, information. Let's start with the rider. Pure yellow ochre. It's an opaque, lots of body. It's going to dash in the head there. And again, we're looking just to simply block in a shape. Just going to come into here with a dark mixture. Again, paper is dry, so I have total control. I'm just going to make a circle. This is going to be the rump. There's just a line that comes down that suggests one of the legs. And there's the other leg there. I'm not going to get into the hock and all the anatomy that is involved with a horse, the tail, any of that. I'm just going to make that shape into there and suggest that that is a horse going in that direction. Again, no information. We're just going to come into here with a dark, and we're just going to blob in the hat, the brim. Don't want to make that brim too big. And we're just going to blend all that stuff down up into there. I've lost the opportunity to get the head of the horse into there. We're still going to try and play with that anyway. So there I am, just blocked in very, very quickly. Same thing here with the pack horse. It's going to come in with just a round ball, just a shape. Now, here we're indicating more or less the right rear. Here, let's indicate the left rear. And again, the same thing. We're just going to put some vertical lines down here to suggest. There's a tail there. Just to suggest that figure. If I do this convincingly enough, and you say, yeah, that's a horse, and this looks very close, oh, well, then that's a horse as well. It's the power of suggestion. Jumping into our little bottle of Magic White, I'm just going to take a pure white gesso here, and I'm just going to start establishing what might be a pack. Now I want you to pay particular attention as this white croaches or gets closer to this part here. Again, fastest way to suggest depth is to overlap. So as I start bringing that white up there and it touches that jacket, I can start to push that rider back or pull this figure forward just by overlapping. And here we're just going to play a little bit with some pure white. Just give that a lighter value. Just take a nice pure white here. We're just going to dip down to the back of the hat. That's probably a little bit too much, but we'll figure that out later. Or right now. So a couple of things here as we are poking around up into here. I'm sorry, this is just me and my process. And again, I'm trying to give you that opportunity to get inside my head. Despite the fact that everything that I post tends to be Western themed, right? Horse and rider, whether it's First Nations, American Indians, cowboys, that aspect. This is what I paint, and this is what I sell with galleries, and this is pretty much what I've gotten known for. But this is not the subject of my workshops. When I teach a workshop, I don't necessarily teach horse and rider. I mean, I'll teach whatever you want me to teach. But I've had a lot of people saying, well, I don't want to go to one of Graham's workshops because I don't want to paint horses and riders. Well, then don't. I teach design. I teach composition. And this is really all that we're getting out of this here is you're learning, hopefully, if I'm doing my job right, to see shape and value, light and dark, not so much color theory, but how to minimize things, how to simplify, how to edit it, if you will. So this is the subject matter, and it's the same rules that apply whether I'm doing this sort of rider motif or Western motif as you would if you're talking of a vase of flowers. They're just shapes. So the interest that I have when I teach is not to get you painting horse and riders. I mean, you can do that if you want. I really don't care. But I want you to paint whatever it is that's interesting to you, whatever moves you, and paint it better and understand how to make that painting work a little bit better. And that's not technique. There we go. There's a nice clean line right up in there. Very important to set that angle. That's not technique. That's just understanding. Understanding the way the eye works, understanding lights and darks, value, all that stuff into there. So I'm going to pull back out here again because we're flitting all over the place and you're missing some of this stuff. So I'm just going to pop some more lines back up into here. So that's basically, I say, when I get into that, that's what I'm after as a workshop instructor. And again, I will demonstrate just about anything. I do draw the line on portraiture because it's such a specific one. I'm not a portrait painter. There are much better people out there to teach you that. But I like to focus on getting you to see things a little bit differently and understand and make choices that are based on the best interest of the painting as opposed to the best interest of somebody else, what they think it should be. So again, I have no sacred cows. I have no problem deviating away from tradition if it makes a better painting. Alright, so we're pretty much done. I'm going to clean up my palette here. I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to basically do this. And we'll zip in on here for you real quick so you can see this. I'm just going to anchor these figures. There we go. I'm just going to anchor them down here with a little bit of dry brush white into here. What I just want to try to suggest the illusion of them kicking up some snow or bringing it back up into here. What this also does for me, not only does it help sort of anchor them, but it also gets me off the hook for having to paint the feet. Because I just don't paint horses' feet very well. Neither did Winston Churchill, for that matter, and he always buried them in grass. So like I said, in earlier ones, it's good enough for Winnie, it's good enough for me. It's interesting because I end up finding myself painting this more for the cameras from what I see on the monitor than necessarily what I would be doing in real life. But as long as we get the information out to you and the product is decent, you'll take it from there. Up into here, I am going to come in and just put a few marks up into there just to help break that up. I want to clean that up just a hair here. Again, these are all these little tweaking bits that I'll probably end up doing off camera. Lost our line. Now here's an interesting line. This line here appears to connect to the tree behind it, but it really doesn't. So let's just restate this line here. There we go. So it has a proper home. One last round of snow, because if we look at this, we see that the riders that got put in last don't have any snow on them. The paper is dry now, so I'm going to come in with a slightly stronger concentration of gesso, same technique, but these are going to give me slightly brighter droplets of snow. And again, it's that wonderful layering onto here. Just want to make sure this is like an isolated snowstorm. So for the most part, let's have a quick look here off camera. Let's zip this back out for you. There we go. The figures may or may not be needed. We had a good building. It was solid. It had nice, clean lines, very much man-made and an otherwise organic feel to it. It anchored it down. It gave it stability. It gave it scale. What the figures do is they give it a narrative. They give it a story. And so instead of an abandoned building off somewhere, it is now engaged in the story. So these guys are coming from somewhere, going to somewhere. It provides, again, that scale, that narrative, that human interaction, which is why I choose them. I could have gotten away without them, and I think it still would have been a fairly successful painting. But again, trying to give you that entire process. Let's take just a few seconds here. We're going to put our studio mat back on. Make some room here. And let's see what we've got. Not bad. Not bad. I think I could live with that. Don't know. It's one of those questions that I'll look at and I'll visit probably later on today, maybe even tomorrow. Let this sit, let it dry, walk away from it for a bit. But there you go, start to finish, plane to frame, warts and all, the return home. Again, a version of heading out, a painting of mine that I had done many years ago. Bring you up on the figures. And you can see that nice crisp snow. This line didn't end up in the middle. This still might be a little bit too awkward. But there it is. Yellow ochre, burnt sienna, burnt sienna, sepia, faience blue or indigo, ultramarine blue, permanent rose. So what have we got? 1, 2, we got 6 colors. 2 browns, 2 blues, a red and a yellow. Limited palette, focus on shape and value as opposed to things and detail. Anyhow, if you like this, please share it. Send me a message on Facebook, Messenger, email. All the contact information is at the back of the end of each one of these video segments. Thank you for taking the time and joining me. I hope this helped. I hope it gives you a better understanding of how I paint and what I do. The decision-making process is really what it's all about. And not quite sure what we're going to do next time, but there's a few other little things that I want to share with you, some little tricks that might get you out of trouble or else help you decide some of those things again. So thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time. Alright, so there we go. We're going to call this one the return home. And so we've got the rider moving back in there in the middle of a light snowstorm. I'm still going to go back in there and poke around and play a little bit once I've had a chance to look at it a little bit more. But there it is, pretty much from what I call plane to frame. That's my process. That's the way I paint. Again, trying to let you inside my head so you can begin to learn how to see and how to look for things and be aware of things as they're happening, because in watercolor it can change pretty quick. Sometimes we have the opportunity to capitalize on an area that we weren't looking at before. Sometimes we lose that window of opportunity and we have to live with the results. Clearly I don't live with my results too much. I have, again, given myself permission to fix them in whatever fashion that I need, and again, that's just that's my world. That's the way I paint. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being with me while I went through this whole process. Hope it was helpful for you. Contact information is at the end of each one of these video segments. Share it if you like, please. Let's keep this going. Let's have even more fun next time.